and we will focus on two major sections, finance settings and different sections or functionalities of the finance module on GlueUp. So as always, I normally start off with the dashboard, which is your own individual dashboard on the platform, which can be modified to capture information relevant to you. And part of that is finance related information. So when I scroll all the way down, you can see there's a lot of finance data you can select, and this will show up on your dashboard, for you to review. Okay, so simply select on any item you're interested in having and save. When it comes to finance settings, we click on the gear icon and proceed to finance settings here. Our first item to fill in our billing information. Now, the billing information will capture both the organization's billing info, which you would have to fill in on your own, and companies and individuals' billing information. So this is filled out by your contacts or members. Okay, so these items normally show up on invoices generated within the platform. Now, when it comes to companies and individuals, you can select billing details you would want saved from those contacts and even make them mandatory from here. So what you can do, you can always come back to edit or add any fields and delete any existing fields present. And you can do that for both companies and individuals, and you can go ahead and save. So let me show you where that information is found on a contacts profile. So when we go over to the contacts module and you click on any of your contacts, you'll find that within the profile information, we have the general info, which is their names, email addresses, and any other information. And we have billing information here as well. So this billing info, these fields are what we were working on just now when we went through the finance settings. So these are the fields you are selecting on that section of the platform. So let's use Kelly Clarkson as an example. Let's put in her name, her email, sorry, Kelly at she's putting an item here. I'm just filling in some information randomly, and you're going to see where this shows up. And we're going to go ahead and save. So those fields are what you will you're creating on the finance settings. So these items right here. So you can add, if you remember very well, I've put in Kelly's email, her country, I've put in a tax ID and all that. So these are the fields I was talking about. You're able to add or remove any of those fields. So once you save that information, we can then proceed to taxes. Now you're able to create taxes on the platform that can be added on top of, membership fees, event fees, and even custom invoices created from within the platform. Now, adding a tax is very simple.
I'll be right back.
Okay. Okay, so adding a tax is pretty simple. The only thing you need to do is to add in the tax name and a percentage. Everything else is optional, and you can choose to apply it to a particular country. So let's say you have people registering for an event that your organization has published, and they come from different parts of the world. If you create a tax, you may choose, which country this tax applies to. So if you say, Valerie is applying and you would want this tax, imposed on people, coming from Kenya, then you can do that, or any other country. So if that's not the case, you can simply apply to all, and that's what will be saved up. So once you add, your tax will be updated on this list. So once you add it, you can always go back to edit or delete any of these taxes. So how do they show up on different parts of the platform? When we go to the memberships module, for example, and jump over to membership types, when creating a membership type, aside from putting in the membership fees, you are also able to add a tax on top. So these are the different steps involved when creating a membership on GlueUp, and we can go over to the pricing section, where you're able to find taxes that you can add on top of your membership fees. So this is where those taxes you've created will show up, and the same applies to events. Okay, so let me go back to finance settings. In invoices and receipts. So this is a very, very crucial section of your invoice, of your finance settings, sorry. And we're going to start off with the general invoice settings. Okay, so the first thing you can put in is the invoice title, and this will show up on your invoice, a prefix, the numbering of your invoices, and the due period. You can also select whether you would want these invoices generated and sent out automatically to users. So what does this mean? When I sign up for an event in your organization and you had these items ticked, depending on the mode of payment I've chosen, let's say if it's an online payment that may require me to pay on the spot after, registering for the event, the invoice will be generated for me immediately, and I'm able to see the amount to be paid, payment methods, and all that, and I can finish the payment. If it's bank transfer, then the second option will apply. So the invoice will be sent to my email, and I'm able to view, the amounts to be paid, the payment methods to be used, and I can follow up afterwards. Same case applies for receipts. So once you've made your online payment and it's successfully been received, then a receipt will also be automatically generated and sent out to you. If your organization utilizes pro forma invoices, you can go in and activate pro forma invoice generation. You can add a title, a prefix like we did, for the general invoice here, an invoice number, and the type of invoice users can request in public registration forms. I have seen some organizations utilize this for their memberships. It's very rare to use pro forma invoices when it comes to event registrations. So you can have an organization policy that will show up. So any information you enter here will show up at the bottom part of your invoice. And we're going to do a preview and see how that works. So aside from this general invoice settings, we have more specific invoice settings on the platform that are relevant to different processes on the system. First off, we have event registrations. So you can have a unique invoice specific to events, specific to membership applications, specific to extra member purchases. So this is related to corporate organizations that charge for the addition of members. when it comes to corporate memberships. And finally, an invoice specific to membership renewals. So what you do is you click on the 3 action buttons and put in different settings for event registration. So you can see this is an event registration invoice. You can have its own, invoice prefix, or you can use the default invoice number format, which is going to be fetched from the one we did above. You can choose, it can have its own invoice, number sequencing and due period. So when it comes to events, the due period is normally set up on the billing date for most cases. You can select that the invoices and receipts will be sent out automatically. You can use the default, organization policy, or if you have a policy unique to events, you can add it here as well. So a custom, organization policy unique to events can also be added here and then saved. The same applies to membership applications. So it can have its own unique settings. And one thing I know is for membership invoices, the billing date is normally, slightly different. So people are given more room to complete the payment. You can also add additional settings here, like generation of invoices and save. So you're going to repeat the same process for extra member purchases and for membership renewals as well. So those are those are what we call custom invoices that are really crucial on the platform. So what about organizations that utilize the finance module to create manual or custom invoices on the system? Now, remember, these 4 items above have already been categorized on the system, so event registrations and so on. For anything you would want to charge that is outside of these items, you may need to create what we call a custom invoice category. So you can see I have, a custom invoice category for, sponsorships, consulting fees and all that. So the only thing you need to do is to come down here and add the invoice category name and save. And I'll show you, where all these items pop up when creating an invoice manually on the platform. Okay. The last section, it relates to companies that are integrating a payment gateway with GlueUp. So a payment gateway normally helps you to receive online and also manage online payments on the platform. So basically, we've provided links here that allow you to log into your payment gateway accounts or sign up if it's your first time and proceed with the relevant processes. So one thing to note, the customer success managers normally help out with this process to make sure that the integration is successful and you're able to receive and manage your payments on the system. Aside from that, for clients that collect funds directly on GlueUp, we have something called Braintree that we recently, made possible for you to deactivate. So what used to happen is if you had an online an event published on GlueUp and people were paying via credit card, they would automatically go into GlueUp's Braintree account, and you would have to interact with the GlueUp finance team in order to get those funds for you. So some companies were not comfortable with this because there were some additional charges involved in that. So that's why we made it possible to deactivate Braintree. So that's all on this section. For organizations that would want to integrate glue up with other integrations like Xero and QuickBooks, it is done from here. So you click on the integrations section and you're able to directly connect to those items from here as well. Okay. So when it comes to these two, we normally offer separate trainings for that, just to make sure you're up to speed and your integration is successful. I will jump over to the finance module itself, and we can go through the different actions you're able to perform from here. We have the invoice section. Now, the invoice section allows you to view invoices generated from the platform, and you can find them in different categories. So up here, you can see the value of open and overdue invoice. So you can see all of the open invoices are also overdue. And a summary of key information can also be found here as well. So when I click on this drop down, I'm able to find invoices in different statuses. So if I want to see all the open invoices, I simply click on that and you will see the total number loading. So yeah, so I have 55 open invoices. The bulk action you're able to perform on this part of the platform is to bulk send an invoice. So in case these individuals forgot about these pending payments, you can resend an invoice to all of them. Another thing you can do is you can send it to specific groups of people. When you see, when you look at the origin tab, it can show you, where these different invoices came from. So some of them were for event registrations, some of them were for membership renewals. So if you only want to send it to, let's say, membership renewals, you would have to come to the filter function, click on origin, and say, I only want to view the membership renewal open invoices, and they will show up. Okay, so there are 21 in number. You can go ahead and resend the invoice or save it as a smart list, if you want to come back and follow up with it later. So on an individual invoice, on the other hand, you can go in, edit an invoice, you can preview an invoice, and you're going to see the different items we worked on during the finance setting stage. So we can find our invoice title here, your organization's logo and billing information, the billing information of the recipient is also captured here. We have invoice numbers, issue dates, and due dates. So depending on the due date you set when working on the invoice setting, that's what will show up here as well. Depending on the number of items to be charged, you can also find that information listed, payment options, and an organization policy will also be highlighted at the bottom here. Down below, you can also find the details of the individual that generated and sent that invoice to you. And it's great because you can always reach out if you have any queries. So that's a sample invoice from GlueUp. Now, for an overdue invoice, like I said, you can resend. You can download a PDF version of the invoice. You can manually add payment from here as well. So if this individual paid via bank transfer, you can come in, say that the payment was added, when they paid, and submit. and the process is complete, they'll receive an email notification from your end. Now, the filter function, aside from what you saw me do initially, is also very important for searching for custom invoices. Remember, these ones categorized as origin are automatically generated from the platform. So events, memberships, these are automatically generated from the system. Now, when it comes to custom invoices, on the other hand, these are manual invoices you created. So let's say you made some invoices following up on sponsorships. You can see I have 6 of those listed here, and I can save as a smart list or do the same bulk action. Anything you filter or search can be exported in a CSV Excel format. So how do we create an invoice manually on GlueUp? When we click on this tab, you can go in and select or manually add a recipient for the invoice. So it doesn't have to be someone in your contacts. You can add anyone in. Let me search for Kelly. So her details will show up. I can also CC this invoice to 5 more people. And her billing information will also automatically be captured if it was added in the contacts module. So that's what you're able to see here. Okay, we can select the currency to be used for this transaction. And you can see the due date has automatically been captured because I said the due date, the invoice is due on the billing date. So that's what you're able to see here, but you are free to change and update or give them more time to pay. As we go down, this is where the payment methods come up. You can select any payment methods you want them to use. If it's bank transfer, you can go ahead and add your banking details and save. Then this is where our custom invoice comes in. So if you would want to charge them for some form of consulting, you can add the item in, a description, the price. You can offer a discount and even include a tax on that. If you would want to send a soft copy document to attach with this invoice, you can upload it from here. You can add an internal note to be captured, or a message you may want displayed on the invoice, and then save. So what happens is you can see a summary of the information of your information here. You can approve. So approve means that you're confident or comfortable to send this out. When you click on approve, it's going to go out to this individual. You have an option of deleting the invoice as well. So since it's still on the draft stage, we are going to find it here under drafts on the invoices general page. So here it is, it's a draft, and drafts do not have an invoice number. An invoice number is generated once it's successfully sent out to a recipient. So that's the difference. So you can come in, approve and send it out to the individual from here, or even duplicate the invoice if you want to create something similar. And simply, go in and change the recipient. Okay, so it's as simple as that. So one difference that our clients may experience is if you have a payment gateway, this interface will be slightly different because it's going to be linked with the payment gateway you're currently using. And payment gateways allow you to process, refunds, and you can keep track of all the actions you perform on your payment gateway account from within GlueUp. So this interface will be slightly different with a few additional filter options. So we can jump over to payments, whereby you are able to find a similar list, but this time of completed payments. They can be either completed payments or voided payments, okay? So again, a bulk action that can be done at this point is to resend a receipt. So remember, these payments are complete. The most you can do here is to resend a receipt to all of these individuals. I normally advocate for the filter function because it allows you to get information you may need. If you'd want to see or find people that paid the invoices within a particular time period, so let's say within the month of April, you can do a custom date range and search, and all the invoices within that time period will show up. In addition to all the other additional filters available. So you can even search it by payer. When you type Alex, we can see the different payments made by this individual going by the name of Alex. And we can save it as a smart list. So on an individual payment, you can go in, make an edit, you can resend an invoice and void the payment. So when voiding a payment or canceling a payment, you provide a reason for doing so, and an email will be sent out to the recipient so that they are aware that this payment has been canceled, and you can follow up on refunds. Okay, so feel free to send in any questions you may have on the chat as we jump into the final section, which is event profit and loss. So depending on the number of events you create or the types of events you create on GlueUp, you are able to find them here and highlighting the amount of revenue and expenses incurred for each event. So overall, this is the total revenue from the different demo events we have here. And you are able to search for events based on event statuses. So if you only want to view past events, you can find them here listed and the amount of revenue they generated versus loss. You can filter them by event tags. If you used event tags when creating your event, and even view different sections. If you only want to view the profit only, that is what will show up. If you only want to view loss, that is what will show up. So the one question that normally comes up at this point is how do you add this information? So when you click on an event, for example, so let's click on an event name. So you can see this was a demo conference that took place at a particular date, and this was the breakdown of their revenue versus expenses. You can choose to export this information or go over to the profit and loss section of this particular event. So one thing you'll notice is when it comes to revenue, sponsorship fees and tickets are automatically captured on the platform. Other sources of revenue can be merchandise sales, or, can be added here, can be manually added, sorry, can be manually added. So you can enter the item name, the currency, the amount, and then you can go ahead and save. For expenses, on the other hand, these will be manually added entirely. So it can be your transport costs, venue, food, and any other expenses you may have. So you may need to manually add those items in and save. So that is what generates the profit and loss section of your event. Now, within an event, there is also a finance section that allows you to track different payments made. They can be tickets or pending invoices. And for an event, you are also able to create a manual invoice for an event as well, from within the events module as well. So these are some of the actions you're able to perform